Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for the 7th episode of YCP's virtual monthly series, Refiner's Fire. Every month, Catholic leaders from diverse industries share professional and spiritual wisdom with us, all in short 30-minute live sessions. And in spite of the short length of these segments, we hope that the tips and insights that are shared are going to be really powerful for all of us as we strive to work in witness for Christ this year. The name of our micro interview series, actually Refiner's Fire, comes from scripture, from Malachi, where we learn that God is like a refiner's fire who seeks to purify us and make us the best we can be. And that's the whole point of this series. Through the inspiration and wisdom of these exceptional Catholic leaders, we're challenged to improve in small ways in our professional and spiritual lives. So let's be open to this journey of refinement, that in everything we do it aiming for that higher standard of excellence that gives glory to God. So our topic this month is project management. And in today's episode, we're going to define project management, and we're going to discuss why these skills matter for the everyday worker. We're going to talk about key components like conceptualizing, planning, executing, and quality control, and how they can benefit more than just our career. We're also going to talk about how project management skills can help our spiritual lives and help us fit prayer into our busy days. And so I can't think of a better person to talk about this topic than our speaker for today, Jonathan Straight, the president, CEO, and owner of Ascension Press. In his previous role as COO of Ascension, Jonathan was responsible for rebranding the company, for restructuring its operating model, and opening up production for a host of innovative, enormously successful products like the Great Adventure Catholic Bible and the growth of Ascension Presents Media Network, which boasts hundreds of millions of views and downloads across its various popular media channels. Jonathan is also a devoted Catholic husband. He's a father of 5. He's a member of the Knights of Columbus and the Knights of the Immaculata. Welcome, Jonathan. We're so happy to have you with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Jen.
So let's jump right in. Why is this topic, why does it matter for us as Catholics and as professionals, and why is this topic important to you?
So my professional background was in engineering. My undergrad was in computer science, and I have a master's in software engineering. And in my master's program, project management was a big topic. In engineering, you've got a lot of considerations having to do with cost and public safety, where the topic of project management is one that every engineer needs a little bit of a background in. But what I saw coming to Ascension and in my previous work was that people enter into the project management roles from a lot of different backgrounds. And so it attracts people from a pretty diverse category of professional training. And so that also means that people that have grown in their careers have become very good at it. So it's been an important topic. It's one that we've talked a lot about at Ascension, and I know that we're going to chat about that a little bit later. But it's one that I do believe that everybody should have a little bit of working understanding about.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit more about the specifics of project management. Earlier, when you and I spoke, we referred to an article from Forbes that talked about the hard and soft skills required for project management. And some of the hard skills it lists are risk and cost management, planning and forecasting. And then some of the soft skills are leadership, communication, patience, adaptability, and critical thinking. Can you shed some more light on some of these skills, these various components of project management? And then also, do you have any skills to add?
Yeah, so you mentioned risk and cost management first. So the classic definition of risk management is the effect of uncertainty on objectives. To me, one of the very important words there is objectives, because one of the hard skills I would add is requirements gathering. And what I've seen is so many professionals get into this and they want to do a risk analysis. They're jumping into the project, but the requirements gathering wasn't done properly. We didn't spend enough time on it. And what happens in that case is the expectations are mismatched with the stakeholders and you as the project manager and the rest of your team is trying to get something done. So requirements gathering, and then one component of requirements gathering that I would add to that list too, the technical term is verification and validation, but the more simplistic way to put it is, did I do the right thing, and did I do that thing right? So if you are asking yourself those questions, that's going to force a lot of good conversations with your stakeholders, and you're going to extract some very good answers there, and you're going to get those requirements out in front of them so that everybody has a chance to talk about it and get on the same page. Second one, cost management, planning, forecasting. So to me, those deal a lot with the category of estimation. So once you have your requirements and you can communicate with the stakeholders the estimate to complete them, you have the basics to really kick off a good project.
Okay.
On the soft skill side, you mentioned leadership, communication, patience, adaptability, critical thinking. I would say that if you've nailed the requirements and the estimation, then it becomes a game of managing up, and really being able to have that honest conversation with the stakeholder about, okay, this is what I believe we're being asked to do, and this is our best estimate as to how long it's going to take to do it. And if you want any other outcome, faster, less cost, whatever, like we have a game plan here that you can talk about. Otherwise, if you miss those steps, you could encounter the very difficult stakeholder who just wants it all. Do it faster and cheaper, but don't change anything. And that's a very difficult conversation to have, but you can have it with a lot more honesty if you've started out with those first steps.
That makes a lot of sense. And again, I'm just thinking of the everyday worker here, because I know that project management is actually a functional title at a company, but we all need to grow in these skills, right? So I guess a kind of a simplified definition of project management could be kind of taking into account all of the variables, some of them that are in our control, some of them that are out of our control, and kind of developing a plan to minimize the things that are out of our control, right? To kind of mitigate that risk. And then for the things that are in our control, really to kind of laser focus in on those areas. And on top of all of that, we have to work with people and kind of understand those people dynamics and kind of really work to be collaborative and supportive and hold people accountable to get to that goal. So it's something that all of us need to grow in, no matter what our job title is. I'm wondering if you have any stories to share, just either from your personal life, from your professional life, of just why project management is so important and how it's helped you.
Yeah, so I can talk about what it was like at Ascension. So I took on the role of COO back in 2017. And some of the issues we were facing, we were having some difficulty completing a lot of projects simultaneously. I would say that the teams were doing a lot of their own project management. So the designers, the producers, editors, they would okay, I'm gonna work on this thing, and if there's any issues, I'm gonna try and hunt down some sort of answer, right? And so we wanted to bring in a lot of project management techniques, because the good project management was going to remove those roadblocks for people, so that they could just focus on what they were really good at. And some of the objections, people get nervous when you bring in project managers. Are they just going to task me? Are they going to delegate to me? Are they going to make like a lot of the decisions on the project without the right background? And that is not the reason that people should get into project management. If you're the one making all the decisions, then you're really the stakeholder, And if you're the boss and you're the one trying to run the whole thing, you can run into some difficulty in getting the right estimations from people, because they want to please you. So they want to give you a good answer sometimes, So we spent a lot of time working on that, and we were able to increase our capacity. So we were doing maybe 3 to 4 products a year. That's up past 20 at this point.
Wow.
and with just about the same amount of staff.
Amazing.
There's a lot of nuance into that, but I can tell you probably the really beneficial piece there is that the teams are much happier. They're much happier, they're more productive because they know they can focus on what they need to do instead of hunting down, getting rid of roadblocks. And, they really appreciate that. So they also know what to ask out of good project managers too. They know what to expect.
So it's almost like putting in a little bit more of that work up front and changing the way you think about executing your projects really can pay dividends at the end, because you're not having to kind of follow up on things that go astray or play damage control. And in a sense, you're so much more productive. I just think of everything that Ascension Press is doing right now for our church. And if you're telling me that a lot of this has to do with project management, I think all of us would say we really need to grow in that skill set.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the more frustrating things will be if you think you've started out on a project and you're running towards it, you're running a gun and you've gotten a lot of stuff done and you're showing it to people and you need to change a lot of stuff, right? Basically the technical term is rework, and rework is very expensive, so while it might seem like it's you have more freedom if you could just run at it and go, what ends up happening is you're just delaying some conversations that needed to have already happened. And the rework is just very expensive.
Costly and timely. Yeah, that makes sense. So shifting a little bit, I was thinking about a quote from St. Augustine. We all probably know it, but it's, work as if everything depended on you, pray as if everything depends on God, right? And so I'm just thinking that in a way, if we think about project management as it relates to our spiritual growth and our spiritual progress, I think it can really help us kind of manage the fact that we're supposed to be collaborators with God, using the time that He's given to us as a gift. He gives us that great freedom, that responsibility, and we are supposed to use our time wisely. I think project management, if we apply some of those same skills that we talked about earlier, I think it can help us in our kind of path to heaven, path to holiness. Wondering if you have any thoughts on that and just ways that we can apply some of these project management skills, even as our role in contributing to our parish, to our diocese, to our Catholic community as well.
Yeah, so one of my mentors told me at one point, a good way to put it was that I care enough about everybody's jobs to ensure that the projects get done on time. And it really connected us back to we have to actually use your time wisely. Means you got to use your gifts. You should use your gifts well, and do the best that you can. And some of the nervousness around project management can go back to you're putting it in place because somebody's looking for somebody to blame, and that's not the case. You want to be able to make sure that you can use the gifts to create something great together. And one of the techniques that I really love about a good project management process is the retrospective. So at the end of a project, some project managers, and we do this at Ascension a lot. We'll say, well, what went wrong and what went right? Basically, well, what went really well that we don't want to forget, and what went wrong that we should change about our process for next time. Again, not looking for blame, but looking for, hey, we can make this better, right? And a quote that I had heard, I don't know which priest to attribute it to, but I love the quote, is never be ashamed of what you bring to the confessional. When I see someone in the confessional, I see a saint in the making, right? Wow. And so it puts that that process of reconciliation and the whole examine that goes along with it into perspective of a continuous improvement. So when you are using the techniques of project management well, and you're open to improvement in the process, I see a young professional being made. I see somebody continuing to improve the professionalism, improving the process, and that is always well respected. And I think that's what we're being called to do.
I think that's such great advice. I love that. And, when you think about just the richness of our Catholic faith, it really is designed for our good. You mentioned the examination of conscience, which is something that, so many of the priests involved and speakers have encouraged us to do. And if you think about it, just putting in that little bit of time, can really result in a lot of growth in our spiritual life, in our professional life, in every aspect, because, in a way it helps us orient our path towards God's will, rather than our own. And again, doing our own will is sort of that rework that you talked about earlier, where we have to kind of make up for times that we go astray. So it's just so much easier to just ask for God's will to start with and really look inside. So I think that's amazing advice. I just want to remind everyone that Jonathan is going to be taking questions from all of you. So please do write some of those in the chat. Jonathan, I'm just curious, what is your wish for young Catholic workers today as it relates to this topic?
So I'd say, regardless of your job, learning just a few basics about project management is going to take you very far. In particular, the ones I mentioned about requirements gathering and estimation. I mentioned those specific terms because you can Google them and learn so much. But basically, really understanding, like, what am I being asked to do? And let me just clarify that with everybody that is asking that of me. And how long do I think is that going to take? That is, if you've got a boss that is difficult, or team members that are difficult, like, sometimes just trying to get down to those answers makes your life a lot easier. And it's an interesting way to approach a tough job. But also, if you don't have a project manager on your team, it's probably you then. Some manager somewhere is looking for somebody to say, yes, we're on it, and here's how long it's going to take. And so if you don't have that person on your team, then step up and do that thing. That is going to give you a more structured way to get work done. And it's a tremendously valuable skill. I promise you, you will be thanked for it.
I love that. YCP has a threefold purpose: 1, Catholic identity; 2, community; 3, the call to action. And I think you're describing that call to action. That's what we mean with YCP, to be that leader, to work and witness for Christ. If there's not a project manager on your team, step up. It's you, and learn these valuable skills. That's awesome, Jonathan. Thank you so much.